Scorecard here. Get your scorecard. You're going to need one if you're following what happened, the transactions last night in the NBA. Welcome to the show. It's Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForest, and joining us immediately, and the last time the two of us were in unison, there was a guy off in the corner of the room, and he said, will the defendants please rise? So I stand together here with Mike Jones, who joins us right at the top of the program here, and so many different things to talk about. Of course, we hail from South Florida. Miami Heat were snookered. Jimmy Butler wanted out. He was sulking like an 8-year-old. He didn't want to play. He's walking out on practice. He's practically spitting in the face of the great Pat Riley. And Riley is not one to back down to anything. And the Heat found themselves in an ugly situation where they had to unload this guy at the last second. Now, I think they got back at least a decent return for Jimmy Butler with no leverage, with Andrew Wiggins. We welcome Mike into the program here. I know you were following this, but this has immediate impact on so many things because there were a ton of transactions yesterday, a lot of them involving big-name players. And the Lakers, when everybody was asking, hey, what the fuck are they going to do on defense now? They again have another player fall into their lap that they desperately needed as they got the center Mark Williams from the Charlotte Hornets. So people that might have backed off on the Lakers for whatever total they had for wins for the season all of a sudden have to, like Linda Blair in The Exorcist, spinning up pea soup as their heads are spinning, thinking, wait a minute, they solved that problem. And now they have Luka Doncic. You have to be kidding me. So a lot of stuff happened. I don't know if it impacted your thinking on things, but it was interesting in the NBA. And the other thing I love about NBA deals is you want to not only get dead money, but sometimes you're actually trading for like a dead guy, a guy who's actually deceased. I think Dwayne Schientz's contract was picked up by
the old Bobby
by
Bonilla.
Utah Jazz. Danny Ainge said, hey, I need 2 dead guys to make this thing work.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about all that, Mike Jones?
It's just interesting. Players League, obviously, and now we're seeing that maybe the owners are asserting themselves in a different way. You know, trading a guy, 25-year-old, all NBA first team player, 5 years running, who now they're saying might have had a weight issue, a motivation issue, might have drank a little bit in the locker room. Maybe there was more to this than meets the eye, that Dallas really didn't want him. Or my theory, conspiracy theorist that I kind of am at times, thought that they're trying to keep the Lakers relevant when LeBron moves on. And, you know, it's a lot of interesting movement. The Jimmy Butler we thought would definitely go. Of course, these guys with no trade contracts are kind of weird because they get to, they get to pick where they go, basically. And of course, him with the, going to the Warriors now gives him a chance. And the Warriors have been wanting to make a move. So the rumor was Kevin Durant was headed there. And then all of a sudden he decides he doesn't want to go. So I think there's a lot of stuff. I think we're going to see more today. I think, we're probably, tipping the iceberg a little bit. I mean, of course, we hit the Titanic the other day with Luka and, AD trade. But this is going to be interesting, to see how the league comes about. They're trying to make a name, and they're going to do this Super Bowl week. I think there's more to come.
You've stolen all of the thunder.
Yeah, they got it. They're doing something because they might lose Christmas Day now to the NFL, which was a big day for the NBA. What can they do to keep everybody in the forefront? Listening to the guys who I listen to about the NBA, who I only listen to on the NBA. Those guys were saying how, these are big deals. It's going to make the playoffs the greatest thing. So it's all this kind of push to see what's happening. But to the players, the message is this. You could be a 5-time All-NBA player and not be secure in your location. They can still move you and do whatever. And for the gambling part of this, now we reevaluate. We handicap differently. We see who the message is. And now we got to figure a way. How do we get through these little quick moves and adjust?
You have figured out a way. We're going to do that. Yeah. If you are betting, and of course, this is the biggest betting weekend of the year, and it's here. It's right there upon us. And, if you need updated odds and props and all of the latest stuff, BetOnline is the place to go. BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source, Mike Jones, for online betting. They have hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. BetOnline, your ultimate companion on game day. People think you're like texting your wife, hey, honey, I miss you. I'll be home right after the game. But you're sending in every dime that you have to BetOnline. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today and make the game day action count even more than it normally would. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, you have come upon something, Mike Jones, that I absolutely love. It rarely happens, and it rarely happens to me. Hopefully, to some of the people in our viewing and listening audiences out there, it happens to you more frequently. Where you jump on something that is going to evolve into a long winning streak, and you get on it early. You were on it right away. You saw something in the Portland Trailblazers that other people weren't seeing. Even this Joe Cronin guy who fucked up the deal where he could have gotten rid of Damian Lillard and acquired Tyler Hero. They had Tyler Hero as if he was on a platter of hors d'oeuvres. They were serving him up to virtually everybody, trying to acquire some help for Jimmy Butler, who would eventually turn his back on the team. I mean, think about this. Soap operas don't have these kind of scripts. But abysmal at best early in the season. Portland Trailblazers. People were wondering what the hell. It's like he stockpiled a team with the roster of the 1962 New York Mets. He had every old geezer that you could find. And sure enough, now behind some young guys that have helped the team surge, you're on a 10-game winning streak with these guys.
Yeah, amazing. So what happened was they came down to Miami, and I watched the game, and I'm like, man, this is a young, energetic team. And I think in my years of gambling and looking at wins and losses from both sides of the aisle, these teams sometimes cover spreads, and it's not necessarily winning the game. It's like, but you get the plus and you cover. But what's really fascinating with Portland is that they went into Chicago and won, then came to Miami, won, went to Orlando, won, and then they just took two more up in Portland as underdogs against Phoenix, a team that they're thinking about, is Durant going to be there or not. They went out and beat Milwaukee, a good Milwaukee team that went in there as a 6-point underdog and won that game. So you just find that you're getting a money line dog that you've hit 9 out of 10 with. And I think that's what you look for, these kind of things, and these gems. Very rarely do they come out, but I just got a little lucky here, and you're riding a streak. And again, it's so easy if you're picking out games as a service or whatever to say, oh, this guy just picked this team all the time and ran with them. But if you're winning and it's a team that you're unexpected, I mean, they're still way out of the playoffs. I mean, they're not a playoff team, but yet they won 9 out of 10, and it's just and covered 10 straight. So it's kind of, do you keep riding the streak, or when is it going to come to the end? I did go against it once.
Parlaying a stick.
Yeah, I think I said the other night that I like Phoenix was probably not going to cover. When's it going to come to the end? And that's the skepticism of the gambler of 40 years in me, is that you just sit there and say, oh, it's got to end, so I'm going to just take the other side. But instead, ride the streak. Baseball is another game that we bet where we ride streaks.
Yes.
Stay with it until you pay once, so that's kind of my thought process. And they're, for the first time, the interesting part tonight is they're a 1-point favorite the early number against the Sacramento Kings, who are coming off a back-to-back, who are coming off getting rid of Fox, getting Zach LaVine, a big trade. I watched a little bit of them last night, some highlights against Orlando, lose by 20. They're trying to find their bearings, as the new team comes together. So you might get a steal with a very hot young team tonight, only laying 1 to what is a playoff team. And last year was a high seed in the playoffs, but they're making some adjustments. So I think you might get an edge with Portland again tonight.
Excellent. No, that's been great. I mean, and it worked out better than our theory.
Yes, it did. UM lasted 2 games.
We mentioned that bet against them every time here. They slapped you in the face with an heroic effort, losing eventually in overtime, and then came back, and I think they even won a couple of games.
They did. They lost to Virginia, beat Notre Dame. Yeah.
Maybe they used your comments as bulletin board material, and
yes, there you go. We're making a
inspire themselves to start, winning and stop playing like shit, which was what they were doing before that. All right, we have the Super Bowl on tap, and college basketball also. I know you wanted to venture into that, Mike Jones, as we attempt to help people out there, and we're just a public service here, trying to help people bury their bookie. That's what we're all about on the program. Super Bowls, we talked about this a little bit yesterday with Troy West and Scotty M on Tuesday. And that is, look, you can't get out all at once. I mean, if you're one of those people, I sound like I'm standing up at a Gamblers Anonymous meeting or something. I don't mean to be like preaching or anything, but that people are going to amplify their wagers because it is a Super Bowl, and yet any gambler with any sense of money management and or discipline would tell you that looms as a huge mistake. As much fun as it is, it's kind of like going to the horse track my whole life. I don't have any luck in these big stakes races, right? I bet against Secretariat in the Belmont Stakes. I had him second with everybody in Exactus. I don't even know if they had exactas back then, but it sounds good. But give me a $2,500 claim or non-winners of two lifetime at Beulah Park, and I'm all in, man. I can spot you a winner in that race. So I don't know. Maybe people have a great track record of betting Super Bowls. I'm not sure that any of the things out there are overwhelmingly believable, but a couple of guys are probably great at it,
Mhm.
predicting it. I know our friend Brandon Lang was very good at predicting Super Bowls for many, many
Mhm.
years. But what would your advice be to people in terms of stepping up the action that they're going to go ahead and pour into a Super Bowl game as opposed to whatever it was, week 15 of the regular season?
I Here's my thought on this, and this is a really good topic to dig into from the gambling mental part of it perspective. Is that majority of the gamblers, I would say, in this country don't bet all year round. So you got your 22 weeks of preseason college football, pro football, and then a lot of it kind of drops off a little bit. Maybe people come back for the tournament, But I found that decades ago, and I don't know how this is now, that with all the different ways that you can bet, maybe people have gravitated toward betting all year round. But it was preseason football was actually bigger than baseball at one point for guys that I knew. So to me, I look at it like the reason why this happens is that we're down to the end. It's the last game, and I'm
Right.
not going to bet for 6 months. That's kind of, I think, why the philosophy is that people will bet more. And because the games are so polarized that right now we get each game each week.
You don't see these guys becoming bettors that love hockey over unders after the
I
football
think, yeah,
season is over. It's certainly a different animal.
yeah, I just think that the Super Bowl, it's the party. It's being around so many people. You take a day. It's like it's such a big thing. The
You
halftime,
have to
all
have
that.
action on it, don't you?
Yeah, it's like right. So it's like more people bet it. That wouldn't bet want to get a bet in, and it's a one-time thing. So I think because it's the biggest event in sports in the United States, I think that's where you
That's
get
fair.
the volume for it. And
Sure.
then I think it drops off because the football bettors betting at the end of the $500 player might throw a couple dimes on a game because it is the last game he's going to bet for a
Yeah.
month and not 6 months to recuperate. And I also look at it this way. People will mortgage their house or do something to stay alive in football season. A good baseball run, you get on a good baseball run and guys can just pick winners and it works. But when you start laying 2-1 and take a bath, all of a sudden that baseball guy goes away. He had that one bad beat. He won 5 weeks in a row and then gave it all back in 1 week. And he says, I hate baseball. I'm done. Yeah, but you won 5 out of 6 weeks, buddy. You
Yeah.
got to kind of stick with it. You just can't risk it. So I think that's where the philosophy comes to me. And my understanding is, I think it's the last game of the year, and we wait 6 months for football to come about again. And the way it's marketed to us, it's the event.
I love and my one of my favorite. I don't know if this is just a cynic in me, but I love being in a stronghold for the losing team to witness Super Bowls, as was the case 2 years ago when Philadelphia lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in a game it looked like they were in complete command of for
Mhm.
most of the contest. The people were, I mean, literally, man, they were gargling with Philly cheesesteaks at halftime, thinking this is a glorious day. Kids that I met that were in the casino, I was in Atlantic City, and kids that you wouldn't even think were of betting age, are sitting there and they've got parlays and all kinds of things working. I'm thinking that the world is really going in an extremely positive direction at this point.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Chiefs come back and win in dramatic fashion. And wow, I mean, you talk about the flowers being in the punch. And
Yeah.
it's kind of, I don't know, is that some kind of morbid thing? It was almost like, the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, where you're just
Yeah.
stepping over dead bodies on the beach. That's kind of how it was going to the window
Yeah.
to collect. So it can be very, very deflating if you're in a stronghold, for the losing team, if you happen to be backing that same losing team, which in this case I wasn't. I was one of
Yeah.
the few guys. I mean, I didn't want to scream "Holy Len Dawson" every time they scored, but it's very,
Yeah.
favorable for me that the Chiefs made that comeback. I don't know that they do this time. I don't know what you're thinking about on this game. I think when we spoke earlier in the week on Monday, that you like a lot of us. I mean, why are we talking ourselves out of the obvious, which is you can't beat Patrick Mahomes? But why is everybody doing that? Because we just want to see change, because change is good. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I talked to some people who don't even want to watch the game because they're tired of the Chiefs winning. It's going to
Yeah,
be
I
5 out of 6. They're in the Super Bowl, right? So I think it's the best streak ever, right? I don't think anybody's hit
no
this
one's
five
won
out of
three.
six. Right? No, nobody's. But here's I was doing some notes before I came in here. Not only has nobody won 3 in a row, nobody's had the chance. Nobody's been there for that third. This is like, so I look at this game differently. I think the most that for the first time, I think there's pressure on Mahomes. I didn't feel it last year in the run because I thought he had to prove he can win on the road. Everybody's talking about he wins every game at home, but now there might be a little bit more on Kansas City here because of the fact that he has a real shot to do something nobody does. I believe, for my money, that he's the GOAT. That of the quarterback position that I've seen, my eye test tells me he's the best I've ever seen. Now it's coming out. A lot of people, how you're crazy, Brady. Brady's won 7. I don't care how many Super Bowls you win. I look at how you play, what you do for your team, how it's done. There's free agency now bigger than ever. Guys move around teams. Players have more pull. What the Kansas City Chiefs are doing here is really, I don't know, it's unprecedented, obviously. But if they win this game, I don't know that we're going to see anything like this, at least what I have left on this earth. So to me, this
Well, it
is
hasn't
very,
happened yet. I mean, in
this
59
is a
years.
very special game
Yeah.
to me in that case. So I feel there's a little pressure. Now let's go back and look at the teams. He was intimidated maybe by Brady because he hadn't beaten him. He loses at Tampa, but the game's being played for the first time in a home stadium was played in Tampa. There was the COVID factor, little people coming in. A lot of distraction. He had one last year, didn't really understand it, and Brady had that majestic aura about him. But now I think this might be the best team he's faced since. San Francisco was a really good team personnel-wise, but wasn't playing that well. Hadn't covered a few games last year leading into the Super Bowl. This Philly team's been on a roll. I look at it like the competition, I think, in the last couple of weeks has been a little better for Kansas City. But Philly's really healthy now. They're going to get both linemen back. This is probably the best team they faced, hence the line 1.5 and holding. I go with the 7 for 7 that Mahomes has done under 3 as a favorite. It tells me that he just wins in these spots. I find it very hard to bet against him. Not only is because Saquon Barkley's dressed in green, gives me another reason not to go against him.
And
Man, I find it tough to
to
bet against the Chiefs in this spot.
you have to qualify that you love Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
Nobody loves this guy
Not
more.
now, but I love
Mother
him
doesn't
then.
love him as much as
I
you.
loved him a year ago this time. I loved him.
You, Mr. Giant. I mean,
That's right. No, but it's just a fascinating game from
Yeah.
that standpoint.
very interesting. No,
Yeah, that's it. But I think Philly's going to be tough.
I believe so too. You know what? I don't know why I'm talking myself into this. It's kind of like where you're thinking, "Geez, do I want to leave this woman?" No, I think I'll marry her. Yeah, you're talking
Right.
yourself into it, and I could see. I mean, look, are you crazy if you make a case for either side? Are you nuts? I can't tell you. I know several people that are all over the idea that Mahomes doesn't lose. You got to be crazy to bet against him. You got to be flat out of your fucking mind. Everybody's number is up at some point in time. I remember the great Angelo Dundee, the late great Angelo Dundee, would say, "There's always somebody out there that can lick you. It doesn't matter who you are." And in this case, I had an interesting conversation on a show we do on a Bleacher Brothers network. So I was talking with Mike Westhoff, who has been a longtime special teams. I mean, you talk about gurus among coaches and what they specifically do. He is clearly the guru of special teams coaches all time in the NFL. I remember being in his office one day. He's showing me some peculiar setup that he had to devise because Pete Stoyanovich, his kicker, couldn't boot the ball through the end zone. So they had to do this like sort of semi coffin corner kick on the kickoffs, and then he's showing me the configuration on film. I'm like, this was a kinder, gentler time in the NFL. Coaches would actually invite the media in and explain shit to him. And while I'm in this guy's office, no less than 5 special teams coaches from around the league call this guy for advice about what to do against the team they were going against. Now that's a guru. I don't know. Bill Walsh might have been a guru. I'm not sure Mike McDaniel is really a guru. Shanahan, any of these guys. This guy is it. So he was telling me, I mean, it's the narrowest of margins, and the Chiefs seem to escape these situations all the time. Maybe it's because they're good. But he was telling me that they picked up on a fact on that blocked field goal that Denver, he was coaching with Denver this year. They picked up on a fact that he had a substitute offensive lineman, that the guy that normally mans the outside on the field goal protection offensive line was out. And so Kansas City spotted this shit. I mean, maybe Andy Reid is just a great coach or whoever he employs.
Yeah.
And they deliberately, they threw 2 guys after this guy who was subbing. And even though they thought it was going to be okay, Westhoff saying he wanted to call a timeout there, and Peyton blew him off. And so that guy got crushed,
Right.
and they blocked the field goal, and they win the game, and that was the difference between that and maybe in several other games these small margins. I mean, Kansas City really does that. They thread the needle like nobody else when it comes to luck. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple things in this game that really find fascinating. The coaching edge, probably Kansas City. The quarterback edge, obviously Kansas City, and even the defensive coordinator, who I think was our guy in 2007 and 11. So he was our coordinator. We won 2 Super Bowls as with the Giants. This guy's got a chance to win his 6 Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator, which is unheard of. Does he get in the Hall of Fame? I
Yeah.
think so. So there's a lot. There's really a lot on the line here in different ways of looking at this game compared to other Super Bowls. I love the 3 in a row factor, and I just think there's a little more pressure on Kansas City. But do they come back? And nothing would surprise me with this team and what they do. And I think it's when you hear. I think the line's being held down because of the dislike of the big dog. The team that's ahead. That we're an underdog.
Oh,
We're
they got it all. They got Taylor Swift up there.
that's where I think that you're seeing the action come Philadelphia because it's that. But yeah, I just think that there's a few factors in this game, and I'll give you my prop that I got.
Okay. Yeah, this is the one you've researched this thing. You're all
analyzing a game. Well, what has Kansas City not done that they may do in this particular game? Well, other than Slay, who's a veteran corner, the other corner is a slot corner. DeJean is a rookie, and Kenyon Mitchell, who's a great player, going to be even better, is still a rookie quarterback. Well, have they been tested deep? And my thing is, Worthy ran that 40, and 4-2 broke the record. And they've run him a lot underneath stuff. I think this is the game that you haven't seen Mahomes do, that he's going to take shots down the field. And if he does, why not go to the fastest guy in the league? So my prop is I'm going to take the over 56.5 Xavier Worthy over yards. And I'm going to do that because I think he came out of the shell a little bit. I bet it mid prop, mid game. I bet it the prop to go over when he only needed like 11 yards. And I'm like, this guy only needs 11 yards. He's got a whole half to do it. And He did it, and he went over by 30. And I see him being a factor in this game. I actually would, might throw a small MVP, number on him just because no one would expect that with Pat Mahomes. Do you bet Pat Mahomes for MVP instead of the Chiefs on the money line as a plus 110? But I would kind of more or less look at Xavier Worthy, the over 21.5 for longest catch, and the over 56.5. You can get it in one play. So you got 2 props you can get if he hits a big bomb. But I think they're going to take a shot or 2 down the field. Not normal to test those young corners and test Slay. Because if Slay gets cornered up with him, which I don't think is going to happen, he can't run like Worthy. So the shot's going to be taken there. Or is it a decoy? I'm going to take my chances and say Xavier Worthy over 56.5. Chief takes some shots down the field, and the over 21.5 in the individual longest catch prop.
You're not alone in that theory. Not that it's my theory, but I was reading a handicapper who said it would be worth taking a shot, and you're getting pretty phenomenal odds on this, that Xavier Worthy will have over 50 yards receiving in the first quarter.
Right.
And his theory was very much along the same parallels as you were talking about, that they're going to try to crack one deep. That, I guess maybe they're anticipating Fangio will try to make some adjustments for what would seem to be a highly vulnerable aspect of trying to defend Mahomes now, that Mahomes is more like Brady, where he just punches the ball into the middle,
right?
10 to 15 yards down the field to one of his receivers. And they're very good at creating yardage after the catch, that they'll bounce out on that first tackle. And that's how he gets a lot of his big plays, more so than, as you alluded to. It's not like he's Danny Boy chucking a rock there against the Bears in '85 at the Orange Bowl. And you're watching these beautiful trajectory passes there, and you can almost hear John Facenda in the background going, "The spiral was out of control." So I think his theory was that they're gonna try and pop this right away. Yeah. And there's a chance that Worthy either beats a guy over the top, or at some point catches a ball in a position where he's going to be able to make a run. So, and you were getting a pretty big price on that. If you wanted to, why not square and cube the luck factor, Mike? It's not good enough just to say he's going to go over a certain total, which is suspect because we all know he's tough. But now let's just quantify it into the first quarter so we can get it.
One of the things I really like about this, people telling me, oh, they're going to stop the running game for Philly's going to keep Mahomes off the field. Why not look at it the other way too? That if they don't go deep, they don't try to take that deep shot, but wait Mahomes and Kansas City's playing, they're saying less plays against Saquon Barkley might be a way of winning the game too. So both teams probably want to methodically go and play that way. Well, I'm going to take my chance and say at one point, maybe one or two shots a game and they hit one, that they're going to take that shot because it's not in their playbook. It's not the way Kansas City has taken shots recently watching these games. They're not going deep a lot, maybe 20, 30 yards, but I might see that 50, 60-yard throw out of Mahomes that you don't normally see in particular spot because I think they might find something that they don't expect. But, an edge, this is – I go back to the Chris Matthews from Seattle, the Timmy Smith from the Redskins. These sometimes it takes one of these players to come outside the box that you don't expect to do something in the Super Bowl. Yeah, Xavier Worthy's number one pick, and but he's not really a groomed player. But maybe he's the guy that steps out of his shell, and that people see it coming and can do it. So that's kind of my thought process.
Became more of a factor last game.
Yeah, he did.
That's All right. So there's your prop. What was the total again? 51 and a hook? Did you say
56 and a half?
56 and a half. Over. Mike Jones says over on Xavier Worthy, the fine rookie wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's his stone cold lock of the century in the Super Bowl. And you had a college basketball game.
This is just a betting philosophy. I think that people look at, and I see this, and you can take this down the road to a lot of games when you're handicapping. Why is the team that's lower ranked or unranked favored over the team that is ranked? Now, it happens tonight. Ohio State's laying 2.5 against Maryland. Maryland's playing really good. Why is Ohio State 2.5? Well, they're home and they're favored. Take a shot and use that philosophy and say maybe the guys in the desert or the guys whoever making the lines know something that we don't know. That saying, okay, if they're making the team favorite that's not ranked or lower ranked than a team that's higher ranked, that would be something that you might want to look at.
You're saying back the Buckeyes on that one.
Back the Buckeyes. Yep.
Okay. That the boys know something. I love the theory that.
It just
the idea that the boys know something.
It came to me 30 years ago, and then someone's brought it up to me recently that he plays that, and he's been very successful. So I'm going to say over a long period of time, it works.
Yes, I've seen that occur numerous times, even in the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
Where you're looking and you're stunned. You're going, wait a minute, man, the wrong team's favored. How are they 16th in the country and they're underdogs? So they schlepped. But sure enough, and if you look at the results, I think you're onto something here, Mike Jones. Very favorable in the direction of the guys that are going ahead and laying the points with what appears to be an underdog. All right, Big Gunner podcast. You say it got off the ground well.
We did. We talked a little bit about my background on the Giants, being an employee and all that. We gave a few picks. Not a great night, 2-1. But we're going to try to bounce back a little bit.
Always good to start like that.
You always want to come out and get losers when you're red hot on this show and go to another show and obviously go
on your own show. You're bearing the people.
Yeah, well, that's right. Who needs viewers? I'll stay with you, Defo. I don't need my own company. So anyway, So it was just that's good. We're going to be once a week at least, maybe twice a week. Some big events happen. We'll pop on to talk about it. Obviously, a little bit more during the NCAA tournament as we get closer and closer to that great event that we love so much.
All right. Many opportunities now on nofilter.net and our various affiliates there and platforms to enjoy the great Mike Jones, who we enjoyed being with here on the show today. Mike, thank you. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
Mike Jones on Bury Your Bookie. We will catch you tomorrow. The professor's got a great item, and it's an annual affair that I look forward to. And he will have the big board of bizarre prop bets for the Super Bowl. The big board of bizarre prop bets. He comes up with some beauties on this thing. So look forward to that on the next edition of Bury Your Bookie. For Mike Jones, I'm Jeff DeForest, and we'll see you tomorrow with the big board of bizarre prop bets on Bury Your Bookie.